One of the biggest questions that I consistently get is, hey, you want to start a holding company? What is the best skill that you need to have? Is it management? Is it brand building? Is it marketing? And my answer to all of those questions would be, This is what you need to learn first. And I'm going to explain to you why you need to learn it. First thing you need to learn is how to sell. This is a very important skill set that will pop up. Like, I'll go ahead and say it. Let's say you're a man and you're in the dating market and you have a very good frame of reference how to sell yourself to women. Because that's what you do when you go up and you knock on the bar and you talk to this woman. Essentially, you're selling who you are to her. And if you're like most men who don't know how to sell, it can typically turn into a disaster. I'll tell you a story. A friend who was about 5'8", somewhat hairy looking. If you would look at, there was this old show that used to come on, Beretta. Beretta had a peacock. This guy kind of looked like Beretta, dark haired, short. And one night we were out and there was this table with these 4 beautiful women. And he kept looking at this one woman. She was absolutely the most gorgeous woman at the table. And he kept looking and kept looking. And I said, man, stop looking. Just go over there and introduce yourself. He said, I think I will. So he gets up and he goes over there. And I want you to listen to me with the sequence and the procedure. He goes over there and he says, hello, ladies. He got all of their attention, He didn't go over there and just try to hit on the chick he was interested in because he realized they were together. This is social intelligence. He says, excuse me, ladies, I want to talk to your friend. I find her the most captivating woman here. I will not be here long. Once again, he's like, hey, I just want to come here, introduce myself, see if I can get her number, then I'm gonna be gone. And that's exactly what happened. The chick was so thrilled that he came over that they kept talking and looking at him all night. He was literally over at that table maybe 90 seconds. Hey ladies, I find you attractive. My name is so-and-so. What's your number? Got her number, came back over. We had some drinks, we hung out. Then we both went home. Then he calls me up and tells me, he calls me up like, essentially, he did not mess around. You know, the next day, early in the morning, he called her. He did not text her. He called her and said, hey, when can we go out? When are you free? What's your schedule for this week? And she told him, and he says, okay, this is the type of guy that I am. This is selling. This is the presentation. You want to start a business. You want to set up a holding company, an operating company. You want to get yourself some business credit. You want to learn how to run a business. You want to start your first online business. If you want to do that, and congratulations to you for being a person that wants more out of life, for being that person that's ready to sit down, do the work so your future can be brighter. I got something for you. Go below and enter into the Corporate Citizen Playbook, where we teach you all of that plus a lot more. Because you are not a normal, regular person. You want more out of life. You want to do more, you want to be more, you want to have more. And congratulations to you. So the link is below. Go ahead and check out this video. And then go ahead and enroll in the Corporate Citizen Playbook, where I teach you some things that you cannot Google. Can't Google it. Can't Google it at all. He's like, I don't like to go places and meet people. So what I would like to do is come to your place and pick you up and take you out on our date. And she was like, so like thrown back. She was like, sure. Gave him her address. And that Friday they had a date. He went and picked her up, took her to a nice restaurant, had great conversation. And first date was a success, which led to a second date, which led to a third date, which led to a fourth date, which led to them getting married and having 3 children, because he knew how to sell himself. Even though he was a regular looking dude, he knew how to sell his highlights. The dude was quite funny. He was quite the jokester. So he knew how to sell himself and present himself. And to this day, this woman is captivated and deeply in love with him because he knew how to sell himself. And this learning how to sell yourself, sell your ideals, sell your concepts, it goes way beyond dating. There was a guy, I cannot remember the name of the company, but they were selling, I believe they were a dairy company. This guy and his wife started this company up. They got to going. And before he and his wife started this company, guess what he used to do for a living? He was a salesman. And when he went out and was asking for money, part of the sales training is to ask for the money. I will tell you, and this is one of the things that we used to get into sales training all the time. You have a lot of people who will go in, pitch a product, and wait for the customer to make a decision. The better salesmen know how to ask for the money. They know how to close the deal. And when I was in my sales training, the guy was like, you guys, you got to ask for the money. You got to ask for the money. And one of the things that I learned, and this was one of the things that I did, and this was during the beginning phase of my sales career, because in the beginning, I actually sucked. I wasn't really that good because I knew how to get leads. I knew how to get appointments. I knew how to go ahead and do the pitch, but I didn't know how to close. And then I started closing. And I remember the first sales juncture I went on, it was a pretty big sale. It was all-inclusive $750,000 was the grand cost of this sale. And we were probably gonna do like $250 in profit, which meant that's gonna be $125,000 for me. So we get in there, I pitch him. First we meet, I take him to a few showrooms, then we kind of decide on some final products. And then I said, you've seen the product, you like the price, when are we gonna close this deal? And she says, let me make a phone call. And she calls up her boss and they talk about it. And at that moment, she said, we can close the deal today. We like your price, we're gonna go forward. I actually had to sit there, bite my lip, be very quiet, and calm down. Because she said, we're gonna go with you. All right, so I got the paperwork, then this is where it got a little tricky. I had to ask for the deposit check. It was $750,000, which means they were gonna have to have a deposit check of $375,000. So with the same energy, the same stuff, I was like, we're gonna need a deposit check of $375,000. How do we go through that process? What do you need to do? And she's like, oh, that's simple. And then she got on her email and she messaged a certain department. And tomorrow she said, you can come pick up the check because it's probably kind of closing. So the next day I went in, I picked up a check, $375,000. And this deal closed about 4 months later because once again, you have to make the furniture, you have to do it, and then it has to be delivered, and then it has to be installed, and you have to manage all of this. And 4 months later, I go in there, and because they moved into a Class A building, with Class A buildings, you cannot load furniture and stuff during working hours. It always has to be done after the businesses have closed. So I was there that night until like 2 o'clock in the morning, managing the install and everything. And then the next day, like 8 o'clock, because I get home like 3, I'm back up at 7, I'm there at 8, and I was like, let's walk through the facility. And I had my little notepad and I was like, okay, I want to make sure that you're happy, everything is set. So we walked through it and she called down her bosses and everyone was looking at the furniture and they were quite happy. And the staff was like, we can't wait to get in there because the furniture was really modern. It was Herman Miller Electrolux. I think that it was their funky furniture because it was cubicles. It was a office. It was a waiting room furniture because this was a new facility and they had just started moving in that day. And we walk in with her bosses and everything. Everyone looks over and I was like, are you happy? Is there anything that needs to be improved on? And she says, no, everything's good to go. And she says, I need you to sign off on this and I need the final check. Got that final check. 3 days later, I had a check for $125,000 on my desk. Do you know how good that felt? Do you know how good that felt? I mean, I was kind of like, I looked at that check, and that was, at the time, that was the largest check that I ever got. And I looked at that check, and I looked at it. I actually took a picture of it with a camera because, cell phones weren't what they are today. I actually took a picture of that, and I lost that picture because if I had a picture, I would show it to you. And I was just sitting there like, man. So what you want to learn how to do is to sell, how to pitch your concepts, how to sell your ideals, how to do all of those other things. Because even as the organizer, the leader of your company, you're going to have to sell so much. You got to sell your product. But more importantly, you got to sell your concepts and ideals to your staff. And if you can do a really good job of selling to them and get them motivated and high strung and full of energy, this just makes your company better. And this is why, hands down, the most important skill that you need to learn is how to sell. This is one of the most valuable skill sets that you will learn, and you would actually use this skill set the rest of your life. I am 56 years old, and I am still using stuff that I learned 25 years ago. Because the first thing is, you've got to find the right audience, because this is an important part of selling, and I'll do a completely separate video about that. But learning how to sell, learning how to pitch, and more importantly, learning how to close. Because after that $125 check, I was a closing beast, because I would pitch them, and there was this book I was reading by Tommy Hopkins. And this one time I actually did not one, not two, but 3 closes in the presentation. And the third close is when I got the check. I became a closing machine. I began to ask for the money. Going back to the guy, because he thought I was going to forget this story, but I'm not going to forget it. He and his wife started this organic company, and he was a salesman. And when they were going out to get money and investors for their company, he heard a very strange story. Because after he had wowed these investors and they agreed to front the money, somewhere down the road, they were having conversations, and the company was doing well, and the investors were getting a great return on their money. And one of the investors said, "You were the only person that actually asked us for the money." And the guy was like, "Excuse me?" He says, "Of all the people who come to pitch us, that during that season, you were the only one to straight up ask us for the money." And that's a real important thing that you need to learn how to do. You need to learn how to say, what can I do to earn your service? What can I do to get the check? What can I do to get the money? With me in my higher level program, I close on that call. This is what I do. We go to the presentations. I will, number one, make sure that they're a good fit. Number two, then we start working on stuff, and then I close them on the call. I send them the email with the link for them to go ahead and register while we're on the call. And I remember the first time I did this, because what I was doing was I was making calls, and then I would send them a link, and then I would be waiting for them to actually make a purchase. Some people would purchase, but I noticed that most people were not purchasing. And I was like, you know what? We need to start closing on the call. We got to start closing on the call. And then I started closing on the call. Completely different results. Completely. Because I had this one girl, she was on the phone, and she's like, "I need to bring my husband on." I said, "Go get him." And she goes, gets her husband. And then we go ahead, and I explain to him the things they're going to be doing. And I said, this is going to be a hefty investment. Not a problem. And I'm going to say something. I know you guys are married, and you need to be in on this, because if you're not in on this, I'm going to hang up and go about my business. Because there's nothing worse than your wife investing into this highly expensive program, and you're not being knowing, not being a part of it, not wanting to do it. And he said, "I really appreciate that," because he said so many people just try to sell. And she's like, you came and got me. He says, I'm with it. And she said, "Okay, we'll do it." Send the email. She went ahead and bought it, and we closed. See, learning how to sell is none of this stuff of, I can sell ice to Eskimos. That's not proper selling. Number one, you need to have someone that can have benefit in use for your product. That's the first thing. Because if they don't have any use for it, and this is one of the things, and this is why you need to learn to sell. Because during the early phases of me learning how to sell, first thing I had to learn was how to get the proper lead. Everybody's not a lead. Everybody doesn't need your product. And once again, I have a high degree of sales ability because how many people need brand new office furniture? It's very, very small window. Very, very small window. I made $680,000 in 1 year selling office furniture to a very small window of customers. How did I do this? Number one, I made sure that my pipeline, what is your pipeline? A pipeline is the number of leads into your system. So I made sure, because this is one of the things I've learned, when my pipeline was fat, and when I say fat, it kind of gets somewhat difficult to manage because you have to have touch-up emails, you have to make phone calls. And when my pipeline was fat, meaning it was getting kind of hard to manage, this is when the money was consistent. But when my pipeline got thin, I could sometimes go a month or two without a check. But as long as my pipeline was fat, meaning I kept it full of leads, I kept adding leads, I would get 2 to 3 checks a month as long as my pipeline was fat, because it's just a numbers game. You go ahead and you put your stuff in there. But once again, learning how to sell is going to be the most important thing that you will do in your business, because you have to sell your concept, you have to sell your ideals, you have to sell your product, you have to sell to your staff. All of this stuff is things you have to do to be successful in business. And that's why learning how to sell is one of the most important things that you need to do. Now, this is part of learning how to sell. You must actively be selling something, because when I learned how to do cold calls, guess what? I was getting paid to do cold calls. And when I went out and started selling, I only got paid a draw for 3 months. And after that, it was 100% commission, 100% commission. And I was selling and selling and selling and selling my booty off. Because once you learn how to sell, capture the customers, because like with my higher ticket program, you cannot go to the website and just sign up. Why is that? Because I've been selling online courses since 2014, going on 10 years, and I've learned a lot. And I want to make sure that I get the best people, the most energetic people. So there's a process that you must go through, because I'll share some with you. Like, I have people who don't show up for their appointment. Do I call them? Do I pester them? No. When they fail to show up for the appointment, that is a number one sign that this person would not be successful in the program. So I just because what did I just tell you? For me to sell a lot of my higher ticket program, I got to have a fat pipeline. And right now because I just started running ads and stuff, so my pipeline isn't fat. But once again, I've been running ads for about 2 weeks. And the first thing I had to do, and this is very lengthy, I had to make sure that the ad worked, which got the people to the landing page. And then the landing page worked. I got people to do what I needed them to do. So I got the ads. I'm a YouTuber. I can make ads. That's easy. Then the second part, the landing page. And now we're getting ready to run the second phase of the testing, because here's the thing. You don't start running a lot of ads and spending a lot of money on ads until you test these ads. Because if these ads are not going to work at, say, $200 a day, they're not going to work at $2,000 a day. They're not. They're just not. So you've got to test your ads, validate your ads. So the first thing, we're going to run ads, make sure our ads work. Then we're going to go to the landing page, make sure the landing page works. And then if the landing page works, then we get people to get on the phone calls. And if the phone calls work, we get people to, it's the ad, the landing page, it's the phone call, and then it's the converting. See, that's why I said, all these people make it seem it's so easy to make all this money. And this is one of the things I consistently get. Hey man, I maybe should sell some online courses so I can get some of that easy money. You know what my response is? I dare you. You think doing this is easy? If you think doing this is easy, that you can just come up like, okay, of course, and people gonna throw money at you, do it. I dare you. I bet you $1,000 you won't do it. You wanna know why? Because this is complicated. To be successful in selling online courses, you've got to do many things correctly to be successful. And this is why I tell you, you want to become a salesperson. You want to learn how to sell. Learning how to sell opens up so many doors and sets you up to be very, very successful. And this is one of the things you got to prep yourself. And this is one of the things that we talk about in the Corporate Citizen Playbook. The links below. Number 1, set up a holding company. Number 2, set up an operating company. Number 3, set up your corporate banking. Number 4, set up your business credit. Number 5, begin working on your operating company and getting your stuff up to go where you can make money. The link is below. You can do one and done, you get on the payment plan. But anyway, it's a procedure. There's many steps that you need to take to become proficient in selling. And one of the things that you need to do is to actually learn how to sell. And to learn how to sell, you got to be in business and you got to be selling something. So go ahead, check out the Corporate Citizen Playbook where we teach you all of that and a lot more. So that's all I got for you guys. I will see you in the next one.